which source, but talking about the defense being ahead of the offense. And I do think that it can't come as a complete shock when the offense, they're installing a new system and the defense is still in the Wink Martindale Ravens system that they've been in, and with some returning talent and they were strong even in that Alabama game. So we saw the depth play very well in that game. So is it a shock that the defense might be a little bit ahead right now?
No, I mean, I think it's to be expected because typically when you have spring camp or you have fall camp, the defense is typically ahead of the offense because the offense is built on timing and getting in sync, where the defense is more read and reacting. Plus, to your point, John, we're talking about a defense that finished top 10 in the country last year. We're talking about a defensive coordinator who knows his groove, has his niche. We're talking about, like you said, an offensive coordinator implementing a whole new system with a quarterback who is 17 years old. So no, I mean, I think, and our offensive line with some new starters and guys shifting positions like Giovanni Alhadi going from right to left. So it is completely understandable, especially with all the new faces on offense like Jamar Browder and Justice Haynes in backfield and you know, things like that. Fred Moore, Samaj Morgan. I mean, they've been there, but still, like, just getting used to Bryce Underwood. Fully expect the defense to be ahead of that curve. But at the end of the day, it's probably going to be in a week or two, the offense will start catching up, tick for tack with the defense, John.
Yeah, it's very, I mean, yeah, not a super shock. The offense had a lot more, let's just say, ladder that they have had to climb versus where the defense was. New offensive coordinator, new quarterback, new pieces on wide receiver. But early, I do want to kind of touch on the offense here. From what I understand, the taller receivers, having the core of the taller receivers, Ron Bellamy was talking about this, that's really playing a role in some increased productivity. And Donovan McCauley's kind of one of the players that we're seeing, which is not a shock, continue to emerge as a real threat and an X type. So with that said, I mean, can we expect some real improvement here in the receiving core in September?
I believe so. And I've been on here probably for a month to 2 months now saying I think I think Donovan McCauley is going to lead this team in receiving yards and touchdowns. You know, word out of Ann Arbor is that he is showing to be a number one option at wide receiver. He is able to make the plays, stretch the field. He's looking like a player who is a guy that you can count on, a guy who can go up and get the ball. You know, one of the things that Soup Campbell as well as Ron Bellamy are trying to tell these kids is, look, treat it like basketball. Go get the rebound, right? Go get the rebound. Another player who fits that mold, John, is Jamar Browder, who we have been high on this channel for a while. We talked about it. I don't know anyone who said what I said when this kid committed to Michigan. And what I said was he has the best hands in the class. And very first day of spring ball, he had a wild play where he had a crazy catch and everybody was like, holy shit. And if you look at this kid's highlight tape, he has a bunch of amazing catches. He's a great hands catcher. And I fully anticipate Jamar Browder to continue to shine in these moments as a young player who's going to have ups and downs. But I do think Jamar Browder is going to be a player. If his impact is not great in year one, which it could be tough playing behind McCauley, right? But in the coming years, I do think Jamar Browder is going to be a guy. And there's no doubt that Ann Arbor, they feel that he is a steal. They got a good one here. So it's very exciting to see, the rumblings coming out of spring ball that his name is coming up consistently. So you love to see that. A couple other wide receivers who have kind of made some noise in camp is Andrew Marsh, Fred Moore. Fred Moore is looking like the guy that we want at Z, but it's early, like how much impact is he going to have? How consistent is he going to be? That's John's guy. He's co-signed him. So, can Donovan McCauley, can Fred Moore be those outlets for Bryce Underwood when, Bryce has to get the ball out quick? So, it's something that it's good to hear, though. It's good to hear that the wide receivers are stepping up.
Yeah, for sure. And you can say what you want about the quarterback situation and how improved the quarterback situation is. And I would agree that Bryce Underwood on his worst day is better than the quarterbacks that Michigan had last year on their best day. And at the same time, you could still see that when you have taller wide receivers, good things happen. And if they're running their routes, it's also Ron Bellamy talked about Soup Campbell really bringing an extra impact. He's a tactician. He's somebody who's a details guy. And that's something that we pointed out. I was very critical that some of the details are being missed. Here comes Soup Campbell, tons of experience in wide receiver coaching, comes in to start filling in those gaps, start helping with communication where needed, and even coaching Ron Bellamy up a little bit, I think, in some different aspects. So Soup Campbell being in that room, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, well, I mean, so apparently Soup Campbell's kind of showing tape of the guys he coached in the late 90s, early 2000s in Michigan, saying this can be you. This is the standard in Michigan. And we're talking about 6 1,000-yard receivers, 3 All-Americans. Soup Campbell, that's something that has so recently there's been some individuals who have been able to watch practice, and there's been a lot of consensus out of these practices. And one of the consensuses are that Juan Castillo and Soup Campbell are major additions to this coaching staff because they are very involved, very vocal, very hands-on. So, and these are coaches that we've spotlighted throughout the offseason that we thought would have great impacts, and it's already showing some fruition here. So we'll see as the spring ball continues. I'm sure we'll hear more about it, but especially once we get into fall ball Saturdays, let's see their impact really hit the field.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Antoine saying, give Ron some Campbell soup. That's pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's clear that early indications are that the receiving core is better. It can't get any worse. Let's be real. There's nowhere to go but up. So let's be honest there, that when your tight end is by far your best producer and it's not even close, that there's some room for improvement in the wide receiver core quite a bit. And so I'm excited to see that Fred Moore has improved. And Andrew Marsh is another one that's been talked about. It's early. He's a true freshman, but he's somebody that's really shining early on. And it's not a shock. It's not a shock. If anybody who's been following us, again, just follow Voice of College Football Michigan, and you'll know about a lot of this stuff really early on.
Yeah, we typically we're either on it, and then when we give our projections, we're typically on point. Now, do we bat 1,000? No, but our average is high. We're like the Ichiro Suzuki of the podcasting game right now. We got a high hit rate. But yeah, man, I mean, another thing we can kind of talk about here is, the running back battle, John. Like, what's going on here? Because there is some interesting rumblings coming out of the running back battle. Jordan Marshall. It does appear that Jordan Marshall has the lead on the RB1 battle. Now, this is where the hit rate takes a hit on my end but it's not over. It's early, but I have Justice Haynes taking that spot. And obviously, you can win. It's winning at one thing in camp, but it's obviously winning it on the field on Saturdays is what matters. But it does appear that Jordan Marshall is lead back right now, and he looks the part by all accounts out of Ann Arbor right now, which is great to hear.
Yeah, and you could look at Rock Boys as one source, and you could look at some of the other sources, and it does. And like, these are people who had Justice Haynes in the lead before, right? These are people who had Justice Haynes as RB1 before, and now having to change that. And look, I mean, that's why we got two of us, because sometimes sometimes one of us takes a whiff. It's okay. But there's still hope for Haynes. It's not over yet. It's still just the spring, and we still have all of fall to go, and we still have before game 1 to go. And we know with Michigan, it's not even over at game 1. It's a continued meritocracy. So they're going to be pushing each other. But I will say one thing. This is really good for recruiting. If Jordan Marshall wins this job, I've been thinking about this a lot the last couple of days. If Jordan Marshall wins this job over the transfer, what does that say to recruits? It says, we might bring in transfers to push you, but you still have every opportunity to win these jobs.
Right.
So what we don't want to happen is every single starter becomes a transfer.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, it's a meritocracy. Best man wins, and that's just what it's going to be. And at the end of the day, production's going to really determine who's starting. So, we'll see when the regular season hits. But as it stands right now, Jordan Marshall's showing out, and there's I don't think anyone can complain about that. That's good. We all thought Jordan Marshall was an excellent player come out of high school. We saw the flashes in the Alabama game, and if he can maintain it, then good for Jordan Marshall. And at the end of the day, whoever is the best man for the job should get the damn job. At the end of the day, so we'll root for him. And we'll keep our eyes on it. We'll see if Justice Haynes can. That's another thing too, though. Is you got Justice Haynes coming in here now. Again, it is a new offense, so they're both starting from scratch. But at the end of the day, Justice Haynes is acclimating to a new environment. We'll see. We'll see if fall camp how it goes when things get a little more physical. I do know there has been some toning down of hitting in practice because some guys have been really laying the wood out there. So, we'll just have to kind of let it play out. It's still early, and as it comes, we'll update you guys as we get it.
Yeah, for sure. It's great. It's great that they're going to be obviously throwing the ball a bit more in Chip Lindsey's system, although all indications are they're still going to have an emphasis on physicality. Apparently, Sharon Moore spending more time with the O-line because he doesn't have to baby the offensive coordinator anymore because Chip Lindsey knows what he's doing. Right? It's not I basically said now Michigan has a real offensive coordinator because Kirk Campbell wasn't, in my opinion, a real offensive coordinator in how he approached it. Well, Chip Lindsey has tons of experience at all levels and knows how to coach that, obviously the full offense, knows how to coach quarterbacks, and allows Sharon Moore to focus more time with Castillo, with Newsome in the O-line room to really shore that up. Because if you're gonna start a true freshman quarterback, which I don't think there's any at this point with Mikey Keene injured or whatever the injury is or whatever the situation is there, we still don't exactly know. But I mean, it's Bryce Underwood versus Jaden Davis.
So I don't know the injury, but I have gotten it confirmed that he's gonna be out a while. So before we were saying, well, we know he's injured. And I have heard that it's potentially longer than shorter. And I have had it confirmed that he's going to be out a while. So he'll be out probably the rest of spring ball. And we'll see if he can make it for fall camp. I don't know. Like, what I don't know is if he will or will not be ready for fall camp. I just know he's out for spring ball.
For sure. And so as we kind of look at the defense here, this is another name that we've had for a while. Shamari Earls is blowing up in camp right now. Obviously, Jair Hill was mentioned, Zeke Berry was mentioned, but Shamari Earls turning heads, just really blowing up early here in camp.
Yeah, I mean, word is he's pushing for cornerback 3. That's crazy as a true freshman. He's a 6'2" corner, great length. His length is better than Will Johnson's. Now, again, I want to just caution here. Do I think he's on Will Johnson's level? I do not, but do I think he is a step behind a Will Johnson or, yeah, I think, and the coaching staff believes that. I mean, he has that potential. There's actually a lot of praise coming out of spring ball right now for Shamari Earls and him just playing really well on the back end of that defense. So that's a great development. I mean, you can never have too much corner depth. And the fact that he's already just a few weeks into spring ball pushing for a position that is in the rotation on Saturdays. That's just an excellent sign. And shout out to Shamari there. Yep. And then just to hit on some other, we kind of lost your signal there, John, but just to, kind of hit out, we can kind of run down some quick hitters on what we're hearing on the defensive side of the ball here, but the front seven's showing out. And that's, again, to be expected because the defense is ahead of the offense, but Derek Moore in particular. Derek Moore has been a player that is being highlighted right now on this defense. And by all accounts, he's in the backfield a lot. Now, one could argue, well, that's a bad sign for the offensive line. But then, the counter position is, well, Derek Moore is now, it's his time. It's his time as an edge rusher to make a name for himself. And then we continue, John, a constant theme, Dominic Nichols. Dominic Nichols is still continuing to be a name that we are hearing consistently. I mean, we may very well have a guy that is going to break out this year. And right now, the breakout candidate has to be Dominic Nichols. I mean, it has to be in terms of players who are young on the rise. I mean, yeah, I mean, that's probably where I'd put it. I'd put it at Dominic Nichols. And then, to keep going, John, Jair Hill's holding down cornerback one for them right now. I mean, he's looking good, looking strong, really growing and maturing in that role, looking like he's going to be the cornerback one when the season begins throughout the year, which is great. He's, again, a player who we were very high on coming out of high school, and he's finally found his groove. And then here's the interesting one, and I know Juju's going to appreciate this. Mason Curtis playing nickel, 6'5", guys, 6'5", playing nickel. He is playing a little high end safety though, so he's doing some high end safety. He's doing nickel, but the versatility is really the point here. He has the versatility to play on the back end at 6'5", and he doesn't look out of place. That's an interesting one. The other interesting one for me, John, is Brandon Hillman, and this is one of the players they literally had to specifically say, tone it down. You're laying these dudes out. You're going a little too hard on your own teammates. Just tone it down a little bit. Just a little tone it down there. All right. These are your guys on the same team. And he's playing safety as well as nickel. There's a lot of rotation at the nickel position. I think they're trying to find the right mix of guys on the back end. But what is interesting is I'm not hearing much about Jaden McBurrows, who we did project as being in that rotation for nickel. His name's not really coming up. Names that are coming up on the nickel rotation are Zeke Berry, which is interesting, Brandon Hillman, Mason Curtis, TJ Metcalf has had some run at nickel, and I think that's kind of there might be another one or two, but not Jaden McBurrows. So really interesting to hear how this back end's developing, but it should be an extremely good back end, especially when Rod Moore returns, which he is projected to come back and be ready for the start of the year.
Oh, can you imagine if it's like a Mason Curtis, Rod Moore battle at nickel? I mean, that would be wild.
I was trying to just hearing the news coming out of camp with the back end of this defense. I was just trying to project what it could look like. Obviously, Jair Hill at one corner, you got Zeke Berry at the other. Let's say you have Mason Curtis at nickel. You have Rod Moore at safety, TJ Metcalf at the other safety. I mean, that is just a lengthy, versatile ass back end of that defense. And then you have Brandon Hillman and Shamari Earls in the rotation. Like, that's extremely deep, man. Extremely deep, talented, long, athletic. Yeah, man. I mean, it's exciting. The defense should be in a very good spot. Another thing we didn't really hit on is the depth, and this is something we know. This is something we know, and our community is aware because we've been talking about this for a while. We've been doing these position groups. The defensive line depth, like the guys like Trey Williams and Damon Payne and Trey Pierce. You got Cameron Brandt, TJ Guy, Derek Moore, Dominic Nichols. We're talking about 8 to 9 deep right now, which is exactly what Michigan, they'd love to have an 8 to 9 man rotation because, they're always constantly rotating those bodies. It's just in a good spot. It's in a great spot. And what we're not hearing, we haven't really talked about is Ernest Hausman and Jay Sean Barnum. The one thing I did hear from an individual who did go to camp is that Ernest Hausman looks like an NFL Mike linebacker, which we know he's athletically gifted, physically built well. But I'm not concerned about Jay Sean Barham and Ernest Hausman. They played extremely well at the end of the year. This defense just really should be a well-built unit. And then I think it might have been Marmar. I'm not sure, but on the call-in show last Thursday, they brought up a great point. Going against Bryce Underwood every day, this defense can be prepared for anything. There's not a quarterback that is going to give you anything Bryce Underwood is not. Bryce Underwood has the arm, as good of an arm as anybody in college football. Now, accuracy, we do intend him to be accurate. But of course, there's probably quarterbacks in college football a bit more accurate than a 17-year-old kid coming out of high school. He'll improve on that, I'm sure. But in terms of his arm strength, arm power, the zip on the ball, there's no one in college, and I am confident making that statement. There is no one in college who is better than him in that area. He probably is going to have the strongest arm in college football, if not the strongest, damn close. And then you add in the versatility, the dual threat capability here. There's nothing this defense won't see, unless there's like a unique play scheme that we're just not running. But outside of that, like a triple freaking option or something. But like beside that, this defense will be very well prepared for next season and should be as dominant as we saw against Ohio State and Alabama.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I mean, maybe the New Mexico Lobos do some run and shoot or something like that, and you might have to adjust a little. But and before we get to super chats, any final pieces on spring?
No, I mean, just that's kind of where we are. We hit on most of it, but I mean, it's just a lot of good news coming out. I am surprised to hear the lack of. I guess there's some, a few things we could hit on. I'm surprised to not hear much about Jaden McBurrows. I'm surprised to not hear more buzz about Justice Haynes.
Yeah.
I'm surprised we're not really hearing any buzz about the tight ends. There's not a lot of tight end smoke right now. And then I am surprised that there's a lack of Ernest Hausman and Jay Sean Barnum smoke, but that could be because they're not fully live all the time, and linebackers really flash when it's live 7-on-7 drills and things of that, 11-on-11. So it could be just that they haven't had the opportunity to shine like they could, but I am surprised to hear a bit of a lack of news there. And the one thing is, and I know we kind of touched on it before, in terms of punting, Hollenbeck is the punter. There's just been some inconsistency there. And then what I will say is the portal is going to be opening up and I know this is probably related more to the recruiting update, but the portal will be opening up, and Michigan is expected to potentially look at offensive line, but definitely wide receiver. So we'll be on the lookout for that.
And maybe punter also. It might.
Yeah, no, and punter. That's true. Yes, and punter. I've heard that. Yes.
Yeah. So more to come on spring. Obviously, a bunch of the Avengers will be at the game on April 19th. We will do a post-game analysis after the game to let you all know, because I know a lot of people, if you're not in Ann Arbor, you're gonna have to wait a week.
Yep.
So we'll do what we can.
So what we're going to do, for those who don't know, is we will be doing a live post game after the game, directly after the game. And then we will be doing another post game, a second post game, when it shows on Big Ten Network a week later. So we will be doing 2 post games, so we can kind of give you guys what we're seeing. And then the following week, we can talk about what you guys are all seeing, and we can have a discussion about it.